Well, we are coming down to the end. Very last verses of Romans chapter 16. These are not throwaway verses. These are not the verses you skip over. In fact, these are some of the most important words Paul will speak to the church in Rome. I have mentioned this probably more than once in the last year or so, but it's worth celebrating that my wife and I are, we're officially empty nesters. And those of you who have kids that have recently left the house, you know air quotes can be helpful because how long do they have to be gone before you're pretty sure they won't come back, right? And even though we're empty nesters, my kids are constantly coming and going. The truth is we don't know when they're gonna come, and we really don't always know when they're gonna go, but they are in and out of the house quite a lot. When they leave though, it always ends the same way. They're getting in their car, I'm standing on the front porch, and I start shouting warnings to them. Hey, watch out for deer this time of year. Be careful out there, always. Now, everyone in my family would vote me as the worst driver in the family. That's not true, but that's what they would vote. I have hit more deer than the rest of them combined, but I drive a lot more than the rest of them combined. Anyway, I don't want to get into a whole thing of defending myself. I'll just say that I'm not necessarily the best person to be issuing these warnings about driving, but I just can't help it. You can't help but warn people that you love. My 2-year-old grandson runs around the house, and he's at that age where he's like eye level to the counter on the corners, like it just always feels like a near miss. And so I chase him around the house saying, buddy, watch out, buddy. So whether it's my kids leaving the house or whether it is my grandson running around the house, I just find myself instinctively wanting to speak words of warning to people that I love. You don't really think about it. It just is part of what you do. When you love someone, you want to warn them. And that's what's happening in Romans chapter 16 as Paul prepares to say goodbye. He's going to speak some words of warning to the church that he loves. He's shouting from the front porch, hey, watch out, be careful, here's some things to look out for. And I want you to think of these verses in Romans 16 as a lighthouse, a lighthouse. The first known lighthouse was built in 280 BC in Egypt. It was called the Pharaoh of Alexandria, and it was quite a lighthouse. It was actually one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. It used a system of mirrors to reflect sunlight during the day to get the ship's attention, and then at night it would use fire to guide the ship safely into the harbor. But just to give you, again, some sense of the date on this lighthouse was built 280 years before Jesus was born. And the reason that it was built was not to be this architectural wonder, but because the Alexandria harbor was an especially dangerous body of water. There were all kinds of reefs that you couldn't see and hidden sandbanks right below the surface that had caused countless ships to wreck along the coastline. And the coastline was flat, so you couldn't really see where the water stopped and the coastline started, and so ships would drift too far, and before they knew it, it was too late. They were in trouble. They were shipwrecked. And so they needed something tall enough, they needed something bright enough to guide them safely through the waters into the harbor. And the final verses of Romans are like that. It's like a lighthouse warning us about dangers that you can't always see, because sometimes they're below the surface, but they'll get you. He warns about false teachers who look legit. He warns about divisions that start small. He warns about deception by the world that seems initially pretty harmless. That first lighthouse, the Pharaoh of Alexandria, provided light, it provided direction for more than 1,000 years. These words in Romans 16 for more than 2,000 years have been a lighthouse, warning believers, telling them, hey, watch out, you need to be careful here, you need to watch out for this over there.